G'day folks, B graders this week. Adam and I are having a little bit of a production meeting down here in Cottesloe. Now a couple of weeks ago Stuart O'Grady was in town and here's an interview we did with him then. Ladies and gentlemen, Stuart O'Grady.
Yeah, it's a bit off-putting that footage on. Bringing back a lot of memories as well.
That should be off-putting. Have a look at that. Just have a look over your shoulder. Walking out of the showers and press area there. What sort of memories does that bring back? Like, that was undoubtedly, because you won the Olympic medal but you had to share that. This must have been the biggest day of your life.
Yeah, look, to be honest, all that's a bit of a blur. It's kind of, I don't think I've actually seen this footage before, this documentary. I don't know where you've dug that up from, but you know, this whole section here, all I really wanted to be around is my teammates, and you've got to go through this whole protocol. And it's kind of funny that they show this. I guess they're trying to show a real what happens after the race. Yeah, that's my son Seth, and my wife were there. I think it's the first classic that, yeah, all I want to do is get in the bus and give everyone a bloody big hug, to be honest. So that was the first, what was it, 2004, Seth came to the Olympics in Athens. So I flew, or I kind of told Anne-Marie, I just felt good and you should probably come over. And so they, Anne-Marie and Seth came to Athens and won the gold medal. And they hadn't been to another bike race since. So this was the first. We actually went to Euro Disney the next day, which I planned a little family holiday, so that's why they came up. But I also said, you know what, just come up to Perry Bay. Got a good feeling. You know, I was just sure that Fabian Cancellara was going to win and we were going to have this massive party. I wasn't expecting to win that at all. So, yeah, it's pretty surreal to kind of look back at this kind of stuff. And, you know, I was on the verge of double leg cramp the whole walk, but, you know, you just, if you win, you don't feel the pain. If you get second, everything hurts.
What does it do as far as the memories go, like all the guys on the team? Is this one of those things that just bonds you all for the next 50 years of your life? Like, it's something that you just reminisce about when you get together?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, every teammate I had in that day, you've got a automatic lifelong bond with. You can't explain the sacrifices that you go through. It's almost impossible to try and explain, because we are on the road for 200 days a year. You race 90 to 100 races a year together, but it's the big occasions that really count. And when you tick those big boxes, it's a bit like when we won the Tour de France with Carlos Sastre. You know, you don't ever forget that. And any time, you meet up, I guess, for the NBA, you get a big, massive ring, which for the golfers, they get a green jacket. But with cycling, I'll never forget the Commonwealth Games. I mean, it was harder to win a national championship, trust me, than the Commonwealth Games. Because the Commonwealth Games, all the best guys that rode the road race were your teammates, pretty much. So I'll never forget in Kuala Lumpur, we won the gold medal with Jay Sweet. Jumped in the elevator. I was a red hot favourite, but I was just being too followed that day. So I sent Jay up the road. Jay wins the gold medal. We, come back to the village, jump in the elevator. There's Steve Waugh, Australian cricket captain. Hey mate, how'd you go today? I go, oh yeah, we won the gold medal. He's like, wow, so you got a gold medal? I went, well, no, I didn't, but my teammate did. And he's like, how's that work? I went, yeah, good point. Might have to bring it up at the next meeting. But there's a real sacrifice for your teammates, and you give 100%. And when those big occasions happen, you never ever forget it. So, yeah, for the rest of my life, you meet up with any of those teammates, there's that automatic bond.
Now, last year when we were here, we talked a lot about the Olympics and winning the gold medal with Graham, and that we didn't touch a lot on your time on the road as much. But you rode for the powerhouses that turned into Credit Agricole. One of those teams that was a bunch of developing pros, sort of nearly men, that turned into a superb team that won the team's time trial in the Tour de France? Like, obviously, team bonding was something you were very into and worked very well with.
Yeah, I was always, I guess, coming, I was good at getting the best out of all my teammates. And that just didn't mean on the bike, but it meant after as well. You kind of rock up to a race, and if guys rocked up to a race, I think the Tour de France in 2008, we had 9 riders and 8 different nationalities. You're dealing with a whole wide variety of people, personalities, upbringings, how they got there. At the end of the day, it's about how do we win this bike race. While we're out training, while we're at breakfast, how's your training been, mate? How's the wife? How's the girlfriend? You're finding out these little details. How'd you sleep last week? Are you a bit sick? That was my job behind closed doors, to find out how every person in that team operated, because I needed every one of those guys to be 100%. And if they weren't 100%, I needed to know about it. So then that we could, because it wasn't the director sportif's job. Well, he might have thought it was, but if Björn Rees walked into your room, normally you just crap yourself. You got the big bald Dane, walks in, how was it? Yeah, good. It's a bit like what the kids say after, how was school? Good. And they go and play Roblox. With your teammates, you've got to have a connection, and it can't be coming from the boss. It's got to come from someone in the team. So my job was to find out all those little details. And then, for example, if you're not 100%, then, like I said before, we'll fill that gap. So we'll make your job that little bit easier and look after you, but you'll still give 100%, but then someone else has to step up and cover that. So just getting the best out of people was what I tried to do.
We look back to the Tour de France that Carlos Sastre won, and we look back at the team you had there, Cancellara, yourself, Jens, the 2 Schleck brothers, just to name part of the team. But Sastre, not the team leader going into the Tour, but was he always going to be that ace in the hole, or was it, it's just worked out that way and now we can play it?
Oh, good question. Look, there was a lot of crap went on in that Tour de France. I could write a book, a few books on what happened in that Tour de France. We had the Schleck brothers, Frank was in yellow. Frank was in yellow when we hit the bottom of Alpe d'Huez. There were so many team tactics in the bus. We were pretty much, and again, this was Björn Rees's strength, that in the bus you've pretty much got 9 of, pretty good bike riders in the bus. So he would go around and ask each person, what's your thoughts on the day? What's your thoughts on the day? And you'd give like a 1-minute summary, and then he'd go, right, bang, this is what we're doing, and come over the top and make his own tactic. And then there was myself and Kurt Ussel-Arvidsson, who were the team captains, and then we kind of had our say, because we're the ones out on the bike, seeing people's face, knowing how guys are reacting. You can tell by, Björn, as good as he is, and he was the best director I ever had, he wasn't riding next to people, so he couldn't see how they were riding on the bike, if they were tired, if they looked tired, if their team looked tired. So that was for us to come up and kind of give our opinion. 2008 was just, it was crazy. I mean, we went in with a tactic to win the Tour de France, and coming from a team like Credit Agricole, where we're there to try and win a stage, all of a sudden you're in a team meeting, a week before the Tour de France, and the guys are already saying, oh, we're going to attack on this mountain, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, what's the time limit going to be? I'm more worried about finishing. These guys are talking about how they do 70% attacks, and then a 75% attack, and then an 80% attack, and just all these little leg-breaking manoeuvres and psychological advantages. It was an eye-opener.
How was it? You came from the Charlie Walsh era of track cycling, and I think it's very well documented of just how insane the kilometres that you guys used to do, and Hank was in part of that as well. Going from the track and then transitioning to the road, how was it transitioning to the road, or how much pressure did you have, should I say, from your European teams to get off the track quicker Did you have that sort of pressure from your European team managers? Did they want you solely for the road, or did they understand you had something to offer them both?
Well, I chose Ghan because Ghan was a French team which were happy for me to chase my Olympic ambitions. I was in Palermo in 1994, standing on the end of a jetty with Dad, and all of a sudden, you know, we'd won the World Championships in 1993, 1994 we rocked up, and all of a sudden there was a few professional teams interested. Motorola made an offer, and you know, I kind of said, well, look, my goal is still as a cyclist to win Olympic gold medals. I want to go to 1996, and they just went, no, we're not having that. Once you turn professional, you're professional. And I went, well, okay, thanks very much. Maybe a few other choice words. And then it came out of Polti and Ghan, and the Italian team Polti sent over one of their nephews, and my nephew, their nephew, the boss's nephew, sorry, came over and said, oh, you know, I've got a really beautiful looking, you know, cousin. I'm like, what? You're trying to sell me your professional team?
It wasn't Harvey Weinstein, was it?
But it was just a very different period back then, and I saw Ghan, I saw Chris Boardman in Ghan, and just went, well, that's, you know, I didn't speak French, so I wanted to try and learn another language, so I went with the French.
So, you're one of the original guys in Greenwich. I don't want to ask you too much about the Ghan and Credit Agricole days, because I want Hank to be up here and you guys to have a chat about that. How much influence did you have with Shane Bannon and Matt White and everything in the first? We've got the original Ghan, the original Orica jersey behind us. How much influence did you have in the setup when it all kicked off a few years ago?
Yeah, it was a really tricky period because, you know, I was 37 at the time. I'd moved my family from Monaco to Luxembourg because I had a job lined up with Leopard. Leopard was the Luxembourg team. I was just going to roll into a director sportif job and live in Europe for as long as that worked out. And it was actually on my birthday in Luxembourg, in our new house. Everything was good, having a barbecue, had the Schlecks in my house over. They lived just down the road, and got a phone call from Jerry Ryan, who's the, I think everyone probably knows Jerry, saying, Stuart, we've got this Australian team and we really want you on board, you know. And I'm like, mate, I'm in currently the world's #1 ranked team. We're kind of winning every classic, Tour de France as we kind of rock up. I'm in a really good space right now, and you want me to kind of almost, you know, all due respect, take a step back to kind of look after and captain these young guys, and we're not really going to have a good hard think about this. It wasn't just a team decision, it was a life decision. You know, we got out of France and had enough French paperwork, and moved to a pretty nice place. So I was kind of set, and this kind of really threw a leg spinner into it. So, you know, I think after a couple of days, I actually spoke to Frank and Andy on the spot, called them up to my room and just said, look, this has just happened. You know, what do you guys think? And they were like, mate, we've just done that. You know, we all left CSC, which was the world's #1 team, to go to Leopard, which was their national team. So
was that their reason for doing it? Because it was going to be a Luxembourg-based team?
Yeah. So they finally had the first Luxembourg team. So, you know, they understood it straight away, which kind of let me at ease a lot. Still didn't know what I was going to do, but then a few days later, I couldn't imagine the world tour kicking off in Adelaide, sitting there in Leopard Luxembourg national kit, watching Guerrero and Whitey and all that come up on stage, being introduced as Australia's first ever professional team, and me singing with a bunch of foreigners. So at the end of the day, it was a no-brainer, but it just took a few days to sort it all out.
So retirement, and you went a little bit quiet there for a few years, settled yourself back in. What does the future hold here, mate?
Doing cycling tours to Europe with Moo Cycling, which we kicked off this year, so we'd take groups to the Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix weekend. do, ride the cobbles, visit the velodrome, check out the old shower cubicles, which for most people sounds funny, but for the cycling enthusiast is a pretty cool spot. Obviously the Tour de France, but yeah, race director for an event just before the Tour Down Under called Revolve 24, which is taken from the Brands Hatch in the UK, where you come down and you can do a 24-hour ride around there's a new motorsport park in Adelaide being built, or 1 hour out, Tailem Bend, a $300 million venue where it's going to be the latest and greatest of all the motorsport stuff, and if you're crazy enough, you can ride around there in circles for 24 hours, otherwise you take up a team challenge. Other than that, got a cafe restaurant thing in Adelaide which is ticking over. Other than that, I'm just trying to be a normal dad, whatever that is.
Well, thanks for coming tonight, mate, and thanks for bringing the boys as well. Like, give your hands together for Stuart.